everybody, thank you so much for joining us. You are now tuned in to the Playbook with the GBC. I'm your host, Craig Stokes. Now look, let's kick off tonight's episode with a hot topic of sorts. Let's warm it up a little bit. Now, the national headquarters for Sigma Alpha Epsilon is closing its chapter at the University of Oklahoma after a video surfaced on Sunday of members on a bus singing a racist chant to the tune of "If You're Happy and You Know It." If you haven't seen it, take a look.
There'll never be a nigger at SAE. There'll never be a nigger at SAE. You came from a dream, but don't never talk to me. There'll never be a nigger.
To you guys, as members of a fraternity, obviously men of color, what were some of your initial thoughts? Now, we've had time to simmer on it and think about it and ponder a little bit, but what were your initial thoughts when you saw this video?
No matter if you're an NBA a basketball player, owner, or you're just a member of a fraternity, the ignorance that you might say and what you think is private is no longer private. Now, I do think that what they said was disgusting. I do think what they said was revolting in all realms. But the fact that anything you say in this world today, anything you do, anything you type, now becomes a world blast, and at any point you can become famous. We don't make them famous, or bad famous.
I was actually surprised because I take in the concept of millennials have a different perspective on life, being more liberal and being more inclusive with everybody of even other races. So in that context, I was a little more surprised to see people that young so willingly and be openly racist really to African Americans.
I know that frats and sororities are built on exclusion. You know what I mean? And exclusivity breeds arrogance and superiority. You know what I mean? So in my frat days, I've chanted some things that, you know, I may not have wanted to get caught on somebody's Snapchat or Instagram, but never to, you know, the levels of this type of bigotry.
Let's touch on that real quick. So your experience in a fraternity, what would you say is the purpose of a chant in the first place?
And that's the thing. I think the whole point of a lot of chants are tradition. Some things that we might have chanted as part of a historically black fraternity myself, some things are just tradition has been started 100 years back, and you just kind of do it out of practice.
They probably got worse chants than that.
So what's interesting in what I said, we haven't really heard too many people on mainstream media support them at all. But there was, you know, an episode on MSNBC's Morning Joe recently where they discussed it, and they said, hey, maybe these kids aren't really to blame. But they didn't say it was their dad or their grandfather or this age-old tradition from their fraternity. They said maybe it's rap music. So if you haven't seen that video, take a look.
We're also going to be talking.
Because it's like, I mean, popular culture becomes a cesspool. A lot of corporations profit off it, and then people are surprised that some drunk 19-year-old kids repeat what they've been hearing.
Exactly.
And
by the way, he shouldn't be disgusted when he sings that or raps it.
Anybody that watches Empire knows that 70% of the audience is white.
Oh my Lord!
The kids that are buying hip hop or gangster rap, as Mark wanted us to call it, Moriel wanted us to call it. It's a white audience, and they hear this over and over again. So do they hear this at home? Well, chances are good. No, they heard a lot of this from guys like this who are now acting shocked.
Willie wants to get in.
Well,
he's the expert.
That being said, how do you all feel like the rap music and the lyrics in rap music correlates with the lyrics that were expressed in this chant? I know, Shaka, you're ready to get at this. Like, I want you to jump in real quick.
It's people are so quick to kind of blame, you know, quote unquote rap music. I guess because they feel there's a correlation between the word nigger, a nigger that's used in some of the lyrics, and whether it's rap music, country music, rock music, there's all kind of music out there that is has undertones of maybe the disgraceful language and things that should or should not be done, and acts that should or should not be done. So I don't want to go to the rap music. The part to hone in on, I think, with this chant is, you know, hanging a nigger by a tree.
I think it was a ploy to try to save little Timmy and little John. I think, and even I watched that segment, and it actually corrected itself, because they were talking about Waka Flocka pulling out from their university as far as performing there, and that whole segment corrected itself, and a man said, him using the word is not saying that he's not going to start hanging niggers from trees.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have our own, and yes, black folks have their own right to say it. We have earned our right. We own that, and we can say it amongst ourselves. You cannot.
Now, when you say you, who are you referring to specifically?
I'm referring to the Caucasian brothers and sisters on this planet. Even beyond that, even those that are in power at that point that gave that much power to the word to give it that negative connotation.
Anybody else see any correlation between rap music and the lyrics used in rap music and the chant?
I think rap music, fault that rap music has is giving, and it's making the word so easy to use, I guess. And it's being that rap music has such a loud voice in the world, it has definitely made the word so easy to use by a lot of people.
There may be a person, you know, a white person or a Mexican or, you know, a Latino, what have you, who may be rapping a song, rapping a popular song, and may, you know, be repeating the lyrics and use the word. I can see the argument saying, hey, I'm just rapping the lyrics, whatever, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, you know, Jay-Z said it best when he was having the debate with Oprah, and he said it's intent, and we give words certain power. And if you say boy, that could be just as bad as somebody saying, you know, hey, like, that's not my name is, you know, whatever. They could say whatever it is, and if you can tell from my standpoint that their intention is to belittle you or to degrade you or to degrade me, speaking for myself, then that word has a certain meaning now. It may never have had that power any other time, but because you said it in the way that you said it, with maybe a certain look, with maybe a certain level of emphasis, now all of a sudden that word is like, oh, you're trying to disrespect me. With that being said, do you feel like society is more racially divided than we realize?
The young men that was on that bus will end up being powerful people at some point. I would sure, and I think we haven't dug into yet the lineage of folks in this fraternity and who they are. The senators, the judges, whoever they may be, and try to trace that lineage within just that fraternity.
I don't believe that we're more racially divided than we have been in the past. I just feel like now technology and social media has just created tools that allow for things that were kept in the closet back in the day just to be more exposed. So now we're just hearing things more because there is a Snapchat and because there is a Vine. And
it's not as easy to inflict physical harm on African Americans as it was in earlier years out in the open.
Oh no, I can't breathe.
I can't. You're right. I can't breathe. But
the video came from somebody that wasn't like standing around watching them while they were on a group or inside the fraternity house. This person was also on the bus with this fraternity, decided to record it, and said, you know what? I'm going to upload this to YouTube. For what reason? Like, I wonder what the motivation was there. Was it really like, hey, this is wrong, or this is going to get some attention? What was the thought there, I wonder?
I think that's that generation's stupidity.
Okay.
That's that take a picture of my butt in the bathroom type generation.
In Ferguson, where, you know, we're getting beat in the street and shot with pellets, you know, not just Mike Brown, but even the people that were out there protesting are getting, you know, they're not being treated appropriately. They're not getting sprayed with fire hoses or attacked with dogs the way we were back in the 60s, but we're still being oppressed in certain pockets in certain areas. Maybe not as widespread as the entire South, but certainly it's more systematic. If you find yourself in the wrong area at the wrong time, or you buck the system in the wrong way.
Because if you think about millennials, man, they're very bold. And at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. They knew what they were doing when they put it on YouTube, and they wanted people to see it. And it has a little bit to do with people being cowards, too, because social media saves a lot of people from being upfront in person and do things. So
there's a downside, too, guys, and I want to make sure that we are as neutral and as objective as possible. Whenever the mainstream media puts something on the news, it gives us, and they do it often, it gives us collectively as a nation the impression that, man, there's no good things that are going on. I mean, this person just got killed, or this other person got killed, this other person got shot by this, you know, white cop. This black man is now dead in the streets. These were just a small group of people in a fraternity in one college in one city in America that spouted these racist comments. It, of course, made it to national news. Does this now represent, society as a whole, or is this an isolated incident? Not isolated because it never happens anywhere else, but isolated in the sense that it's the minority versus the majority in terms of how people are thinking and feeling.
Can I say too? I think incidents like this that go public also, it puts a tag note on what can't happen anymore as well.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think that goes with anybody. Now let me ask you all this, and just so we're held accountable as well, as members of a fraternity, what would be your stance if somebody at another chapter said something similar, but maybe against other races? How would you respond in that way? Like, would you stand up? Would you fight? Would you come out on YouTube with your own video against it? Like, what would you do? How many would disassociate? Just like, hey, I'm just not attached. That's not me. That's y'all. Like, how many would do that? Okay. So we got about 2, 3. Okay. How many people would, like you mentioned, Rich, that you were an officer. How many people would try to get into the chapter and the national organization and do something from that side of things?
Well, probably not. Well, no.
I agree. I wouldn't have. I probably would just send something to somebody in the chapter.
Okay. Now, how would you? Now, the last thing is, so that was more internal. One is, I'm going to go into the national organization and try to make change there. The other part of it is disassociate and just kind of like not say anything at all. How many people would come out like we had, the football player at OU who said, hey, I'm against it. We got people withdrawing, their letter of intent to come and play for the school. How many would take that kind of approach to be more national, that vocal, and stand against that?
That recruit that put his acceptance back. Yeah. That was more powerful than taking the letters off of that building.
Okay.
Their football team is worth millions, by the hundreds of millions of dollars.
So you think that is more powerful there?
Holy smoke! You'll start affecting their money. I said there, and as in you start affecting the man's money, his green, his real color that he represents. Whoo! You got power.
That's real change.
The guys that were cheering me on,
high
fives, and were loving on me, but yet we're trying to hang me from a tree.
People are gonna smile in your face. They're gonna high five you. They're gonna be happy when you're working with them and working for them. Oh, yeah. But behind your back, you don't know. You shouldn't be fooled and think that they're not saying something like that. And that's not everybody.
How much does that really matter? And how much do we really want to change people, per se?
Okay.
People are going to, depending on your experiences, how you're raised, and things that happen to you, you're going to have your own thoughts. I'm not upset with so-and-so is a racist. Should I be upset at that person, be mad at that person, or not associate myself with that person?
Look, ladies and gentlemen, what we like to do is it's fun and games. It's all fun to just talk about things, but we want to leave each episode with what we call what's the play. What action will we take? What's the kind of way that we can sum up this episode and this topic? And I want to go around the room and get everybody's thoughts on it. What do we do? Where do we go from here? Maybe the question isn't how do we stop this from happening again, but maybe what is the issue that we need to be addressing?
And is really asking how do we solve racism in America? Honestly, man, I really don't have the answer. If I did, I'm pretty sure I would be on CNN or somebody.
Right.
I think a lot of this stems from fear and lack of knowledge. We don't know who they are. They don't know who we are, and
okay.
That's that fear factor.
What are you thinking, Shaka?
I'm thinking we have to realize, accept our diversity and our differences. My train of thought, my opinions, and you may have your opinions. We can be different, but we have to find a way where we can communicate and still work with each other, no matter what.
Here's where I settle. Here's where I'm settling right now. I think it's a question between: do you want incremental or do you want exponential? We did an exponential increase, an exponential movement in the 60s. If you go to Egypt in the last couple of years, they've done something exponential. They've attempted to do something exponential. If you look at Hong Kong in recent months, they had an exponential focus where they rallied, and they're trying to exact a big change. So we've had some incremental improvements since the Civil Rights Movement, up to the point where we've got an African American president in office. And since then, we've seen some atrocities. And so we have to decide if we're going to go exponential. Are we really going to start putting things on the line? Are we going to take some drastic measures, or are we going to go incremental and continue to try to move it slowly but surely to try to get that end mission done? I think it's incremental or it's exponential at this point.
Carlton, what are you thinking is the main issue that we need to address? We got the communication, we've got kind of taking time to get to know each other a little bit better, and then we got to make a decision collectively, whether or not we're going to make incremental changes or exponential. What do you think is the main issue right now?
The main issue is making the new clan uncomfortable. I think as you start to make them less comfortable in being themselves, I think too that starts to change a lot. I think the way people are brought up do a lot to themselves. When they expose to people of like minds that create chaos, they just breed chaos amongst themselves unless they feel uncomfortable doing that.
I feel we've got to be pushing for real power, man. We get so caught up into, somebody said the N-word, but like political power, judicial power, hiring power,
Okay. So is that so what I'm hearing and what it made me think about is the validity, the need, the reason why HBCUs and Black Greek letter organizations were started in the first place was to create some semblance of power, to have some control, to have some of those things that you mentioned before. But I think you're talking about on a larger national level, having the ability to interface with people who get you, who understand you, who know where you're coming from, that are in position of power to create some equality, I guess, on a level playing field when it really, really matters, whether it's in politics, whether it's in corporate America, whether it's in the military, whatever it might be. Is that correct? Am I hearing you correctly?
That's exactly what I'm saying, Craig. You hit the nail right on the head, man.
But the more you start controlling your own money, like the Jewish community, the Indian community, the Asian community, we start getting that kind of power, which is really dollar power. I think it'll start changing a lot.
Just to summarize, we're talking about economic empowerment. We're talking about then the conversation and communication around that, and communication just about who we are. I want to know who you are. We need to have that desire. You can't create desire in people, but having that desire to want to talk and to be curious and to seek to understand before you're trying to be understood, I think will create that platform for, so amazing conversations. No telling what can come out of that. Now, on top of that, we got to be decisive before we can have that conversation, and we need to know: are we going to make some incremental change, man? Or are we going to just, we're going to go out there and do something exponential, something that people will be writing about and learning about in the history books for years to come? Is it necessary for us to, maybe the play is to make groups uncomfortable about their racist beliefs, make them understand that it's not cool, it's not okay. Maybe what you thought was, the norm in your household or in your community, or as in the case of Sigma Alpha Epsilon, your fraternity, it's not the way the world works, and it shouldn't work that way. And maybe the issue is for us to take the power out of the word nigger. Maybe that's the play. Maybe we should focus less on the word and really establishing real power. Now, we throw it to you, the audience, our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. We want to know what you think the play is here. Leave it in the comment section below. We cannot wait to read it. We cannot wait to communicate about it amongst ourselves. What you say may drive the next episode of the Playbook with the GBC. If you want to find out more about the next episode, just keep it locked right here. Again, I'm Craig Stokes. It's been a pleasure. We will see you in the next one.